The dining room at my parents' estate was decorated with the usual extravagance. Crystal stemware catching the chandelier light, fresh flowers from some exclusive florist. Place settings that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Thanksgiving at the Morrison household was less about gratitude and more about showing off. My sister Caroline sat at the head of the table opposite our father, her position a not-so-subtle reminder that she was the heir apparent to the family legacy. At 34, she was the CEO of TechVantage Solutions, a software company that had gone public 2 years ago with considerable fanfare. The stock had performed well enough to make her wealthy beyond our already substantial family money, and she never let anyone forget it. "I'm serious, Emma," Caroline continued, her voice carrying that particular tone of condescension she reserved especially for me. "At some point, you need to accept that dabbling in the stock market with your little nest egg isn't the same as real investing. It's cute, but it's not serious wealth management." My brother-in-law Trevor chuckled, swirling his wine. "Caroline's right. I mean, what are you working with, Emma? 100,000? 200? That's nice for a hobby, but it's not the kind of capital that moves markets." "I think it's sweet," my mother added, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Emma's always been more modest in her ambitions. Not everyone needs to be a titan of industry." I continued cutting my turkey, keeping my expression neutral. "The stuffing is excellent this year, Mom." "Don't change the subject," Caroline pressed. She was enjoying this, surrounded by family and her executive team members she'd invited to Thanksgiving. Her CFO Marcus, her COO Jennifer, and her chief counsel David. She loved an audience. "I'm genuinely trying to help you, Em. You're 31 now. You should be thinking seriously about your financial future instead of playing around with index funds or whatever it is you do." "I appreciate your concern," I said mildly. "Do you even have a financial advisor?" Marcus asked, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer. "Someone managing your portfolio professionally?" "I manage it myself." The table erupted in polite laughter. My father shook his head fondly as if I'd said something charmingly naive. "That's exactly the problem," Caroline said. "Look, I know you've never wanted to work in the family business or do anything corporate, and that's fine. But managing your own investments without professional guidance is it's irresponsible, Emma. You're leaving money on the table." "Perhaps," I said, taking a sip of water. Jennifer leaned forward. "Caroline, didn't you mention that TechVantage has an excellent wealth management division now? Maybe Emma could benefit from their services. Family discount." Caroline's eyes lit up. "That's actually perfect. Emma, our wealth management team is top tier. They could probably triple your portfolio in 5 years with proper strategy. I'll set up a meeting for you. Consider it an early Christmas present." "That's very generous, but I'm comfortable with my current approach." "Comfortable staying poor, you mean?" Trevor muttered, just loud enough to be heard. My father cleared his throat. "Emma, your sister is trying to help. The least you could do is consider her offer. Pride is one thing, but financial security is important." I met his eyes across the table. My father, Richard Morrison, had built a commercial real estate empire over 40 years. He was worth roughly $800 million, and he'd spent my entire life making it clear that Caroline had inherited his business instincts while I had not. I'd stopped trying to prove otherwise years ago. "I understand, Dad. I'll think about it." "Thinking about it is great," Caroline said, her voice dripping with false encouragement. "But you also need to act, Em. That's always been your problem. You think and never actually do anything bold. That's why you're still playing with small investments while some of us are actually building wealth." Marcus raised his glass. "To bold action and real wealth building." Caroline's leadership has taken TechVantage from a $400 million valuation at IPO to over $2.8 billion today. That's the kind of vision we're talking about. Everyone toasted. I raised my glass slightly but didn't drink. The conversation moved on to Caroline's recent acquisition of a smaller competitor, a deal that had made headlines in the tech press. She held court, explaining her strategic vision while her team nodded appreciatively and my parents beamed with pride. I let their words wash over me, barely listening. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. "Emma, could you please silence that?" my mother said sharply. "We're having family time." "Sorry," I said, pulling out my phone to switch it off. But the screen made me pause. 15 missed calls from a number I recognized. My contact at Goldman Sachs. 6 urgent emails. 3 text messages, each marked urgent. Everything okay? Caroline asked with exaggerated concern. Not having a stock market emergency with your little portfolio, are you? Just spam, I said, turning the phone face down. But before I could set it down, it rang again. The same Goldman Sachs number. Seriously, Emma, Caroline said. This is rude. I apologize. Let me just. I answered the call and stepped away from the table, walking toward the hallway. Ms. Morrison, the voice on the other end was breathless, urgent. I've been trying to reach you for 20 minutes. We have a situation with your position in TechVantage Solutions. I stepped into my father's study and closed the door. What kind of situation? The sell order you placed last week for your entire position, 250 million in shares. It executed this morning. But there's been unusual market activity in the past hour. Someone leaked information about a major shareholder selling, and there's panic selling across the board. TechVantage stock is down 34% and falling. We're seeing circuit breaker triggers. The company's market cap has lost over $900 million in the past 90 minutes. I was quiet for a moment, processing. What's the current price? $31.45 and dropping. You sold at $54.20. Ms. Morrison, you just cleared approximately $247 million in profit before the crash. But the market is going crazy. Every financial news outlet is trying to identify the major shareholder who dumped their position right before the collapse. Your sister's company is in free fall. Thank you for the update, I said calmly. Let's discuss details tomorrow. There's more. TechVantage just announced they're suspending trading and calling an emergency board meeting. There are rumors about accounting irregularities. This could get very serious very quickly. I closed my eyes briefly. I'd known about the accounting problems for 6 months. That's why I decided to sell. But I hadn't expected the information to leak this fast or this dramatically. Keep me updated on any developments, I said. And please prepare a full report on the transaction for my records. I hung up and stood in the study for a moment, collecting myself. Through the door, I could hear continued laughter and conversation from the dining room. They had no idea what was happening. I should have stayed in the study. I should have left through the side door and driven home. But something made me walk back to the dining room. Maybe it was the years of condescension, or maybe it was just timing. I'd barely sat down when the front door burst open. Caroline. A young woman in a pantsuit rushed into the dining room, her face flushed and panicked. It was Amanda, Caroline's executive assistant. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's an emergency. Your phone has been off and the board has been trying to reach you for the past hour. Caroline's face shifted from annoyed to concerned. What kind of emergency? Ma'am, your major shareholder just sold $250 million in shares. The stock is plummeting. Trading has been halted 3 times due to circuit breakers. We're down over 30%. The board has called an emergency meeting for tonight. The SEC is asking questions. Financial reporters are camped outside the office. The color drained from Caroline's face. What? That's impossible. Our major institutional holders are all long-term. It wasn't institutional, Amanda said, her voice shaking. It was an individual investor. Someone who'd been accumulating shares quietly for years. They dumped everything yesterday morning. The transaction just became public an hour ago, and the market is responding to rumors that they knew about problems with the company. Marcus had his phone out now, scrolling rapidly. Jesus Christ. The stock was at $54 this morning. It's at $29 now. We've lost over $1 billion in market cap. Jennifer was pale. Who sold? Which shareholder? We don't know yet, Amanda said. The transaction was done through layers of holding companies. But whoever it is, they owned approximately 4.2% of the company. And they sold everything at peak price right before the crash. Caroline's hands were shaking. This is insider trading. Has to be. Someone knew something, Anne. Caroline, David, her chief counsel, interrupted. His face was grim as he looked at his own phone. We have a bigger problem. Bloomberg is reporting that the SEC has opened an investigation into TechVantage's accounting practices. There are allegations about revenue recognition irregularities. Did you know about this? I what? No. Our accounting is... Caroline stopped, her confidence faltering. Marcus, you reviewed the quarterly reports. There's nothing wrong with our accounting, right? Marcus wasn't meeting her eyes. There were some aggressive interpretations of revenue recognition standards. Nothing illegal, just optimistic. But if the SEC is looking closely... Define aggressive interpretations, David said sharply. We may have recognized revenue on some contracts before they were fully executed, Marcus admitted quietly. And there were some expense capitalizations that might not withstand strict scrutiny. I told you we were pushing the boundaries, Caroline. I told you 6 months ago that we should be more conservative. My father was standing now. Caroline, what is he talking about? What did you do? Nothing illegal, Caroline insisted, but her voice was rising with panic. We were just using standard industry practices to maximize our reported earnings. Every tech company does it. It's completely normal. Standard practices that you're being investigated for, Trevor said flatly. Jennifer was scrolling through her phone, her face getting paler by the second. Oh God. CNBC is running a special report. They're calling it the TechVantage collapse. They're comparing it to other accounting scandals. Caroline, your picture is on national television right now. My mother made a small sound of distress. Caroline looked like she might be sick. Who sold the shares? Caroline suddenly demanded, her panic morphing into anger. Someone knew about the investigation. Someone sold before this became public. That's illegal. When we find out who it was, we'll prosecute them for insider trading and... It was Emma, David said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. David was staring at his phone, his expression unreadable. I just received an email from our transfer agent. The major shareholder who sold is listed under Morrison Investment Holdings LLC. That's Emma's holding company. I remember because we had to file when she crossed the 5% ownership threshold 3 years ago. The silence was absolute. Caroline's face went through several colors. What? Emma owned 4.2% of TechVantage Solutions, David continued, his lawyer voice steady even as he looked at me with something like awe. Based on today's numbers before the crash, her position was worth approximately $252 million. She sold at $54.20 per share. Given that the stock is now trading at $29, she avoided losses of roughly $110 million, and she secured gains of approximately $247 million. My father sat down heavily. That's not possible. Emma doesn't have that kind of capital. She doesn't. When did you buy? Marcus interrupted, his mind clearly working through the implications. When did you start accumulating shares? 7 years ago, I said quietly. Right after I got my MBA from Wharton. I started with a $2 million inheritance from grandmother Morrison. I bought shares in several companies that I believed were undervalued. TechVantage was one of them. This was back when it was a private company worth about $80 million. I bought in at $8 per share through a private placement round. You bought before the IPO? Jennifer said, stunned. Do you know what that position is worth? Was worth. I'm aware. Caroline found her voice. You've been a major shareholder in my company for 7 years and you never told me? You never asked, I said. And you made it very clear over the years that you didn't want my input or involvement in anything business-related. You've spent every family gathering for the past decade telling me I don't understand real investing or serious wealth management. But you, Caroline's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. You live in a normal apartment. You drive a Honda. You dress like someone who doesn't need to prove her wealth to feel valuable? I finished. Yes, I do. Trevor was staring at his phone now. Jesus. Emma, are you the Morrison that's trending on Twitter right now? Financial Twitter is going insane trying to identify the mysterious investor who perfectly timed the TechVantage exit. They're calling you the Oracle of tech stocks. I'm not an oracle, I said. I just do my research. Research, Marcus repeated. What kind of research? The kind where you actually read financial statements instead of just the summary reports, I said, looking directly at him. 6 months ago, I noticed irregularities in TechVantage's revenue recognition. The numbers didn't match up with industry standards or with comparable companies. I dug deeper and found concerning patterns in how expenses were being capitalized versus expensed. It suggested aggressive accounting that was technically legal but ethically questionable and likely unsustainable. I turned to Caroline. I actually tried to tell you. Remember last spring when I asked to talk to you about TechVantage? You told me you didn't have time to explain business concepts to someone who played with stocks as a hobby. So I made the decision any investor would make when they lose confidence in a company's financial practices. I sold my position. You destroyed my company. Caroline shouted. Your selling triggered a panic that wiped out billions in value. No, I said calmly. Your aggressive accounting triggered an SEC investigation that destroyed confidence in your company. The market found out about the investigation and responded accordingly. I just happened to sell before that information became public. That's insider trading. Caroline insisted. You had inside information and I had publicly available information that I analyzed more carefully than your own CFO apparently did, I interrupted. Every piece of data I used to make my decision was in your public filings. Anyone could have done the same analysis. They just didn't. David cleared his throat. Actually, Caroline, Emma's right. If she based her decision solely on public filings and her own analysis, that's not insider trading. That's just good investing. We'd have a hell of a time proving she had material non-public information. She's my sister. Caroline screamed. She had access to nothing, I said firmly. You've excluded me from every business discussion, every family business meeting, every conversation about TechVantage for 7 years. You made absolutely certain I had no inside access to any information. Congratulations. That means there's no possible insider trading claim. My mother was crying now. My father looked like he'd aged 20 years in 20 minutes. Marcus spoke up, his voice hollow. The emergency board meeting is in 2 hours. Caroline, we need to prepare. The SEC investigation is real. If they find what I think they'll find, we're looking at restatements, fines, possibly criminal charges depending on what they determine. Criminal charges? My mother gasped. For accounting fraud, yes, David said quietly. If they determine that revenue was intentionally misstated to deceive investors. Caroline's legs seemed to give out. She sat down hard in her chair. I wasn't trying to deceive anyone. I was just trying to show growth. To keep the stock price up. To make shareholders happy. By lying about your financial performance, I said not unkindly. Caroline, I know you didn't mean for it to go this far. But you surrounded yourself with yes men who told you what you wanted to hear instead of what you needed to know. And when someone, me, tried to raise concerns, you dismissed them because you thought you were smarter than everyone else. You could have pushed harder, she said, tears streaming down her face now. If you knew something was wrong, you could have insisted. I tried. You told me to stay in my lane. You told me my little investments weren't serious. You spent years making it clear that my opinion had no value to you. I paused. I'm sorry this is happening. I really am. But I'm not responsible for your choices. Amanda was pulling at Caroline's arm. Ma'am, we really need to go. The board is waiting. And the press is getting more aggressive. Caroline stood shakily. She looked at me one last time, her expression a mixture of betrayal, anger, and something that might have been respect. How much are you worth now, Emma? After selling? Approximately $890 million, I said quietly. TechVantage was my largest position, but I've been investing in other companies for years. I have positions in 16 companies across various sectors. Most of them are doing quite well. My father's whispered Jesus Christ was barely audible. You're worth more than me, Caroline said. It wasn't a question. Yes. More than Dad. Yes. She laughed, a broken sound. And we spent years telling you that you didn't understand real wealth. That you were playing with little investments. That you needed our help. Yes, I said simply. Caroline left with her team, Amanda practically dragging her toward the door. Through the windows I could see news vans pulling up outside the estate. They'd tracked her here. My father stood and walked to the bar, pouring himself a substantial scotch. Emma, I don't understand. Why did you let us believe you were struggling? Why live so modestly if you're worth nearly $1 billion? I'm not struggling, Dad. I live well within my means. I drive a reliable car. I have a comfortable apartment. I don't need a mansion or a luxury vehicle to feel successful. I paused. And honestly, I was curious how long it would take for any of you to ask about my life instead of making assumptions about it. 7 years, my mother said softly. It took 7 years and a financial catastrophe for us to actually pay attention. 8 years, I corrected. I started investing 9 years ago. I've been building wealth for almost a decade and none of you noticed because I wasn't loud about it. I wasn't flashy. I just did the work. Trevor spoke up, his voice subdued. What happens now? To Caroline? To TechVantage? That depends on what the SEC finds, I said. If the accounting issues are as serious as I think they are, she's looking at significant fines, possible restatement of several years of financial reports, and criminal charges if they determine there was intent to defraud. The company might survive if they clean house and implement proper controls. Or it might not. Can you help her? My mother asked desperately. You have money now. You could. Could what? Buy back into a company that's being investigated for fraud? That would be financial suicide. Mom, I sold my shares because the company is fundamentally unsound. Throwing money at it won't fix that. But she's your sister. And she spent years treating me like I was financially illiterate, I said, not harshly but firmly. I'm sorry she's in this situation. I genuinely am. But I'm not going to destroy my own financial position to save her from the consequences of her own decisions. My father drained his scotch. What will you do now? Go home. Continue managing my portfolio. Maybe take a vacation. I've been thinking about New Zealand. I stood up. I should go. I have some calls to make. Emma, wait, my father said. He looked lost, older than I'd ever seen him. I owe you an apology. We all do. We underestimated you. We dismissed you. We made you feel like you weren't successful because your success didn't look like what we expected. Yes, you did, I agreed. Can you forgive us? I considered the question. Eventually, maybe. But right now, I need some space. This has been a lot. My mother stood and walked over to me. I'm proud of you, she said, her voice cracking. I should have said that years ago. I'm so proud of what you've accomplished. Even if I don't fully understand how you did it. Thank you, I said. That means something. I left through the side door to avoid the press gathering at the front. My Honda was parked on the street, unremarkable among the luxury vehicles. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment, processing everything that had just happened. My phone rang. Goldman Sachs again. Ms. Morrison, we have 3 major media outlets requesting interviews about your TechVantage exit. Bloomberg, CNBC, and the Wall Street Journal. They're offering. No interviews, I said. I'm a private investor. I don't seek publicity. But Ms. Morrison, this is a major story. You perfectly timed one of the biggest tech stock crashes of the year. People want to know. They can wonder, I said. I'm not interested in being famous. I'm interested in making good investment decisions quietly and living my life. Please decline all media requests on my behalf. As you wish. But I should mention that several venture capital firms and hedge funds have reached out, asking if you'd be interested in managing their money or serving as an advisor. The fees they're offering are substantial. I smiled. Tell them I'll think about it. But I'm not making any commitments right now. I drove home through the evening traffic, my modest apartment building a welcome sight. My 1-bedroom unit on the 4th floor was small by my family's standards, but it was mine and I'd bought it outright with cash 5 years ago. Inside, I made tea and opened my laptop. My investment dashboard showed the day's activity. TechVantage was still falling, now trading at $24, down over 55% from the morning. Other positions in my portfolio were green, up for the day. Overall, I was up $247 million on the TechVantage sale and up another $12 million on my other positions. It was more money than I'd ever imagined having when I started investing. More than I needed. More than I could spend in a lifetime of modest living. But it wasn't about the money really. It never had been. It was about being underestimated and proving them wrong without saying a word. It was about doing excellent work quietly and letting the results speak for themselves. It was about knowing my own worth regardless of whether anyone else recognized it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Emma, it's Marcus from TechVantage. I know we weren't always friendly to you, but I want you to know that your analysis was right. I should have listened when you raised concerns. I hope you can forgive our arrogance. I typed back. I appreciate that. Good luck with the SEC investigation. Be honest with them, it's your best chance. Another text, this one from Jennifer. You're brilliant and we were idiots. Congratulations on the exit. You earned it. I smiled and didn't respond. A third text from Caroline. I'm sorry. For everything. 4 years of dismissing you and treating you like you didn't matter. You were right about the accounting. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I stared at that message for a long time before responding. Thank you. I hope things work out as well as they can. Take care of yourself. The next morning, I woke up to find that TechVantage had continued falling overnight in after-hours trading. The SEC investigation was expanding. Caroline had been placed on administrative leave by the board. The CFO Marcus had resigned. The story was dominating financial news. But I'd also received 17 voicemails from investment firms, 4 emails from venture capital groups, and one particularly interesting message from a professor at Wharton asking if I'd be interested in teaching a course on value investing and financial analysis. I thought about that one while drinking my coffee. Teaching could be interesting. Helping other investors learn to do proper due diligence, to read financial statements critically, to make decisions based on data rather than hype. My phone rang. My father. Emma, I wanted to apologize again. And to ask, would you be willing to look at some of my commercial real estate holdings? I've been wondering if I might be missing things the way I missed what Caroline was doing. I trust your judgment. I should have always trusted your judgment. Send me the financial statements, I said. I'll take a look. Thank you, Emma. Your mother and I would like to have dinner with you. Just the 3 of us. No business talk. Just getting to know our daughter again. The real you, not the version we invented in our heads. I'd like that, I said. Maybe next week? Next week is perfect. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and started reviewing my portfolio. I had flagged 3 companies for deeper analysis, all showing early warning signs similar to what I'd seen at TechVantage. Time to dig into their financial statements, read between the lines, look for the truth hiding in the footnotes. This was what I did. This was who I was. Not someone chasing flashy returns or bragging about wealth, but someone who did the work, made careful decisions and built something real. My family had finally seen it. They'd needed a $900 million market collapse and a major financial scandal to notice, but they'd seen it. Better late than never, I supposed. I pulled up the first financial statement and started reading. Line by line, number by number, looking for the story the company didn't want to tell. This was real investing. Quiet, careful, methodical work that paid off not in press coverage or family admiration, but in results that spoke for themselves. My phone buzzed one more time. A news alert. TechVantage CEO Caroline Morrison steps down amid SEC investigation. Stock down 67% from peak. I closed the alert and returned to my analysis. Some lessons cost $900 million to learn. And sometimes the person everyone underestimated turns out to be the only one who knew what they were doing all along. I took a sip of coffee and smiled. Time to find the next opportunity.